the bye week is almost over for Tennessee basketball, but it is a massive and maybe even sneaky matchup coming up on Saturday between Texas A&M and Tennessee, number 6 versus number 7. That 12th man, it might actually be a factor, Chris, coming into the weekend. Paige Dauer alongside Chris Brown for the good, bad, and ugly. But we're going to do more of a preview on what will make it good, bad, or ugly. So I'll leave it to you on the whiteboard. Chris, where do you maybe want to start today's episode?
Let's just start with the good.
Okay.
We want everything to be good.
Yeah, we need another ranked win. Tennessee needs a ranked win.
Yes.
And it's tough going in to Texas A&M, being a Tennessee tight end back in the day.
Back in the day.
What is it like going up against a team that is known for their 12th man, known for their 6th man?
Yeah, so we played Texas A&M after 2004 season, so it was our freshman year, my freshman year, I should say, down in the Cotton Bowl. So obviously they were able to travel very well to come there. It was, tough environment. This was when they were in the Big 12, so a little bit different than the SEC, but obviously we won the game. But you do remember the 12th man. You do remember them showing up. We know they've spent a lot of money and they've done a lot of things with the NIL to try to bring people in. And obviously we know Buzz Williams is a great coach, so they'll be ready to play. They're coming off of a tough loss to Mississippi State, where they had to go down to Starkville, which we know how tough it is to play there, right? So now we had a big win. We've been off all week. So I look for our guys to show up, go into Texas A&M and College Station and try to get this win. But it'll be tough, Paige.
Yeah, I want to loop back to that story a little bit later, maybe when we get to the good or bad, depending on, or the bad or ugly, depending on where that goes. But quickly on good, what do you think it will be from Tennessee that they'll have to do to make this a good game, that they can get another ranked win? Yeah,
it's going to be tough. We talked before we came on. The teams are pretty even when it comes to scoring and all that stuff, right? Like, obviously, we have to be able to go in there and not turn the ball over. We have to be able to get the lobs. Like, we have to do a lot of stuff. I think with the game being so evenly matched, we cannot have a period of time where we don't score baskets, right? Like, we can't have that, especially being on the road with the 12th man and doing that. So the good for us, obviously we're coming off of a win. We had Zakai come out and play extremely, extremely well in the second half, which is what we needed. I think I was watching something last week in that game, which was cool. It was actually Ron Slay, another VFL, doing a halftime show on the SEC. And he was talking about a particular play where Felix Okporo, there was a jump ball. And he's literally there on the ground, and you can see Felix holding the ball, and he's shaking his head like he's not going to let it go, and the refs try to go in there, and he holds the ball. But I think that was a mentality play, right? Like, I think Z's technical foul was a mentality play. And I think, obviously, he didn't play as well as he wanted to in the first half, but I think you kind of saw that shift. But it's much tougher to go on the road and do that.
Yeah, I think maybe we're thinking of the same play because it was early in that game against Vanderbilt, and they were falling to the ground fighting the ball. And the Vanderbilt, I can't remember who it was, but cushioned the fall for Felix. I could, the wind would have been knocked out of it. I probably would have died, honestly, crushed under that fall. But yeah, like Felix, he's like, oh no, if this is a strength battle, you're not getting this win.
And I think that's huge, right? Like, obviously that was a Tennessee Vandy game, but that just went to show you kind of the mentality of like what it was going to be. And I think that whole game we saw Vanderbilt jump out to the lead. We saw our guys bounce back, but mentality is huge, especially when you're playing on the road.
Yeah, and that's something I talked about on the show earlier this week too, about maybe the phrase that they need to be playing on a loop through April is, will we wilt or will we grow? And that's what Rick Barnes said to the team during halftime of that Vanderbilt game. And we saw probably their best half this season in that second half against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think Coach Barnes has been there before, right? So he understands. Our guys know. We talked about it last week about just leadership. We talked about having Zakai be that guy that is a leader, right? So in those moments, he knew he wasn't playing well. He knew things weren't going well. So when Coach Barnes says that, you have to listen, right? You're either going to wilt or you're going to grow. And I think those guys took it personal. And I think that's just something that we have to continue to do, kind of to continue this season. Obviously, we got a tough game this Saturday, but we still got some tough games coming up as well. And then we got to get to the SEC tournament. But I think we're kind of right where we want to be, Paige. Obviously, this is a big top 10 matchup this upcoming weekend. You win this game, obviously you can push forward. You got LSU next week. They're kind of down this year. Still be a tough game on the road, but this is a huge one.
Yeah, and I think it's because maybe they can marry together Barnes ball and having this positive mindset. Because looking at the two teams statistically, this will be a defensive-minded game. And if Rick Barnes is winning these defensive wins that we've seen a couple of times, like against Florida, holding them to a season low, this is the moment where your defense absolutely has to feed your offense.
Yeah, defense has to feed offense. I think we need to get some fast break points. I think we need to get the ball in the paint. I mean, I think we play a lot better when we start off getting the ball in the paint more. We need Igor to kind of step his game back up and kind of get back into that swing of that 15, 16, 17 points a game. But the paint's going to be huge, Paige. We've seen when we can get the ball inside and we can truly get in the paint, whether it's Z, whether it's Sakai, whether it's Jemai. That rhymes, Sakai, Jemai.
Bucket.
Whether it's one of those guys, but truly, like, Jemai needs to be the slasher. He needs to be going to the goal. Jordan Gainey's another one. Like, we need all these guys to step up, especially with it being on the road. Remember, this is Chaz he's still, I mean, obviously he's been here for a while, 24, 25 games in, but going into an environment like this, he's our leading scorer. Obviously, we're still trying to feed him and get him going, but obviously Texas A&M is going to be ready for him to do what he does, and hopefully he can make some timely shots for us.
And I think that maybe leads into like the bad part of this. If that doesn't happen, I think it ends up being a bad game for Tennessee. I guess on your whiteboard, I'll put you on the spot. So for this to be a good game, but we'll take it from like the negative perspective. If Chaz doesn't reach this number of points, it'll be a bad game for Tennessee. So what do you think maybe the threshold is for him?
17. He's averaging 17 and a half.
It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on 4th down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages, so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.
Him just kind of getting to that threshold, I think it's the supporting players really more than anything, Paige. You know, the Igors, the Jordan Gaineys. We're still waiting on that real big game from D Stone, right? Like we still have him in the mix. We still have a lot of guys in the mix that can truly go and progress. If we go out and play like we played against Oklahoma, we talked about this. I mean, all of our 12 o'clock games.
Well, I mean, I know looking at that, I'm like, he had 21 points against Oklahoma.
Right? So like those 12 o'clock games we've played pretty well.
I think they've won all of these 1 or / like noon games.
So we've played well, right? So that Oklahoma game, if you remember, man, we were hitting threes like crazy. That was a 12 o'clock road game on the road with Oklahoma. Kind of had a little bit of momentum. So that's what we need. You need to have some big shots to kind of get that crowd out of it. But I think the supporting cast around Chaz truly needs to step up. We know Z's going to do his thing, whether it's first half, second half. We know he's going to be there. Chaz is kind of hit or miss right now, but we know he's going to hit a couple shots.
If they get Wade Taylor going, this is going to be not a good game for Tennessee.
He's one of those guys that I think we played him last year or the year before. He got going, man, and if he gets going, he'll pull up from anywhere, right? And they have another guy who scores. So they got 2 guys averaging 114.9 and 114 points, but Wade Taylor's a dude, right? They want to get him going. They want to be able to get him a couple threes. He's a slasher. He can pass. He can kind of do it all. Yeah, Phelps. So we don't want that.
No.
We don't want to get him going. So defensively, I think we'll have a plan for him to kind of get the ball out of his hands, kind of get it in other guys' hands. But when you got a player like him, you know he can get a shot off at any time.
Yeah, because neither of these teams have great offenses. I mean, we were just looking kind of at the NCAA stats, and I'm going page 1, page 2, page 3. I'm like, I can't find Texas A&M. Granted, it changes by like the point something. I mean, they're 195th in the country in scoring offenses. That's about, 73 points a game?
Yeah, so that's not a lot, right?
No.
I mean, when you're seeing the Auburns and the Alabamas and these teams averaging 90, 100 points a game, this is going to be a defensive struggle, right? It's going to come down to who can get some stops in crunch time. It's going to get turned to who can make shots. I mean, they're going to try to force other guys to make shots, and we have to make them. And again, defensively, I look for Meshack to be all over Wade Taylor. Like, I think that's going to be his assignment. And obviously, we know Shaq can play defense. Like, that's his thing. So I know he's going to take that challenge personally.
What is most impressive as we kind of go off the tracks a little bit with Jemai Meshack's defense? Because you'll watch it so many times where the offense tries to make certain cuts or, put the ball behind their back and go the other way to create a little bit of space. Jemai doesn't give them any space. I don't know what it is about maybe his eye control, but he's stays stuck on these guys.
Yeah, I think it's anticipation, right? I think when you're really good at something, you watch a lot of film. So I guarantee you he watches a lot of film to know movements, no motions. And the dude's just a freak. I mean, he's literally a freak when it comes to being able to jump, being able to move. But his defense is very hands-on, right? Like he's all in their face. He makes sure that they can't slide, can't move. And again, I think the anticipation of being able to know this is my job. Like he knows he's not going to go out there and score 25 points. That's not his role, right? Like his role is to go find Wade Taylor or whomever the best player on the other team is and shut him down. And that's where he'll get his slashes. That's where he'll get a couple steals. That's where he'll get a couple dunks. And I think that ultimately makes him play defense much harder.
Yeah, and I think the couple of times where he is able to go out there and get a three-pointer, I think just juices him up like nothing else.
He hit one the other night, and it didn't count. Like they called a foul, and he shot it and made it, and I got so mad. It's like, man, how you gonna do this to Shaq? Like,
yeah, don't take that away from him.
like,
Come on.
He don't shoot them very often. He doesn't make them very often. But it was all net, no nothing. He shot it comfortably in rhythm, and they blew the whistle.
I know. Wait, I want to go see like how many points he's averaging, because it's crazy. Because like Rick Barnes after the game talked about how he has told Jeremiah, he's like, all I want you to do is get in the corner. If you're open, take the three.
Yeah.
And the couple of times that he does that a game, he really does make those corner threes, which is crazy.
There's a lot of players, Paige, in college, in the league, like that was their role. Their role was when somebody drives to the goal, you slide down to the corner because that guy's going to come and help, and you got to be able to shoot and make the open three. How many points is he averaging?
How many is he averaging? Yeah. That I don't have up right now, but he was 2 of 3 from the three-point line against Vanderbilt, had 9 points. Game before 0. Against Oklahoma had 2, then 7, 8. So mostly he's averaging single digits right now, but like his points are so loud.
2 of 3 against Vanderbilt, that's huge.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
That game, again, with the swings and the way that game was going, for him to be able to do that and make those open shots, I mean, TBA, Food City Center, like you said, they're timely. The points are, you notice the points, kind of like you said about Felix. Like, he doesn't score very much. We were talking, he averages 7, 8 points a game, but his lobs, his those inside play, those dunks, they're loud. And you remember those plays, and those plays truly kind of get us going a lot. But Shaq, I'm looking forward to that matchup with Shaq and Wade Taylor. Same thing with Z. I think Z will be on him as well. I know both of those guys take a lot of pride playing defense. Yeah,
because with Phelps and Wade, they're both averaging 14-plus points a game, but no one else on the team is averaging double digits. At least for Tennessee, I think it's 4 guys are in double-digit scoring. Yeah, so you've got Chaz leading the way with almost 18. You have Sakai behind him with 13. And then Igor and Gainier 10.
Yeah. So I mean, that goes to show the bulk of our scoring is coming from those guys, right? That's where it comes. Who's going to be that 5th, that 6th guy that steps up? Texas A&M is going to depend a lot on their top 2 guys. We know that. I mean, that's what they've done all year. And Buzz Williams has done a very, very good job. It's tough to play down there at Mississippi State. We know that. But I look for them to truly bounce back and come out ready to play Saturday morning. Yeah.
For the ugly side of this, we'll get back to the whiteboard as well. What will have to go wrong for Tennessee for this game to end up being ugly?
Oh, boy. Can't.
I think this is most writing you've done on the whiteboard.
Can't make shots. You can play as good as defense as you want. If you're not making shots and the other team, I just think it's so tough to play on the road, right? Like, especially when you're not making shots. The crowd gets into it. You get emotional. I mean, you can hear a lot more stuff on the road when you're playing on the road. So we have to be able to make shots. I mean, you remember that Florida game earlier this year when we were ice cold on the road and they beat us by 30 and ran us out of the gym, right? So that to me is going to be very, very, very huge. I don't think we can get in foul trouble either. I think Z needs to make sure he doesn't get in foul trouble. Same thing with Jemiah. You don't want to have to put guys who aren't used to playing that kind of high-level intensity having to guard somebody like Wade Taylor.
And I think the points, Chris, that you're talking about specifically have to be the points from the paint.
100%. Kentucky shut us out of getting in the paint, and we saw what happened, right? Like, that is a huge part of our game. I think when you're getting in the paint and you can kick it out to an Igor or to a Chaz who are wide open, or that person step it up and you can throw the lob to Felix or get the floater going, it just makes it so much easier to kind of get Rick Barnes' offense going. And I think, again, in those moments when you're getting into the paint and you're scoring a layup or you're scoring a dunk, it's much easier to pick up that person inbounding the ball really fast to get some pressure for them bringing it back, right? So obviously when you're shooting three-pointers, you're going to have long rebounds. They're going to be able to get run-outs. When you're making shots and they have to get the ball out of the net, you can press and you can get up on them to make it harder to get the ball across court. which once again is slowing them down. Maybe you can get a couple turnovers from that.
Because I think the biggest difference when we look to the Tennessee and Vanderbilt game is what the Commodores were able to do in the paint, especially in the first half. I mean, they had the 20-12 advantage, I believe, and I think when Tennessee was able to either limit those paint points, which I think a lot of time came from second chance points, so they got a lot better with their rebounding. But you do look to Kentucky, and it was their ability to take away the lob that Felix Akpara and even Cade Phillips are great targets for Sakai Ziegler in, or, you know, even when it is a Chaz Lanier that's way better either driving, you know, right down the lane or baseline to get those layups. That is a huge component to Tennessee's offense, and if they can't get that going, this will be a very ugly game because of the environment.
Yeah, it'll be ugly, and you got to think that those shots lead to threes, right? So if you can hit those and you can hit a couple threes, you're good. But if you're missing those and you're missing threes, which we know we're going to shoot our fair share of threes, it will be a long, long night. So I look for our guys to kind of get going early. We need to get to the free throw line early too, Paige. I think that's important kind of when you're playing on the road, just to see a couple baskets go through that are easy and that are free. Again, you can get your mojo. Chaz, all those guys need to see the ball go through the net.
Yeah, and it reminded me when you were talking earlier about your, you know, one matchup that you had, you know, against Texas A&M and it being the 12th man, reminded me when Igor Milicic earlier this season when they were at Vanderbilt, and I'm like, it's really hard to play when you've got like 15,000 people screaming at you. And I'm like, well, that was the main thing that Coach Rick Barnes was telling you guys to do during practice, is to communicate, because it is so loud. How much of their ability to communicate do you think will be a sneaky factor in this game against the 12th man?
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? I think in moments like that, in environments, it is loud. And you have to learn how to read lips. And I think basketball is much easier because you can truly like call 5 people together and you can communicate with them. But in the same breath, it's hard because everything's going in basketball so much quicker, right? Like, so you don't have a play where you can come back to the huddle and they can do this. It is going right back into the action. So communication will be key. I think a lot of times the communication from the coaches at Vandy is tough because the benches are down here, right? You gotta yell like you're a stage coach, right? So I think that's tough. And on the road, it's tough as well because typically they put either the student section somewhere near your bench, right? So they're rowdy and they're going crazy and they're doing all that. So communication will be key. I think we just need to play our game. If we play our game and don't just get out of the realm and trying to do stuff we don't do, I think we'll be fine. I mean, it's number 6 versus number 7 for a reason. It's a very, very, very evenly matched up team. And I think the team that makes the most shots and that truly just plays the best defense will come out and win it.
And we'll pull a page from the Lady Vols because it's hard for them to communicate because they play so fast on offense. And like, well, how do you catch your breath? But then how do you also like communicate when you're literally running up and down the field trying to get in transition? She's like, literally just like scream. The amount of times I hear Talasha Cooper like scream on the court, and I was like, who was that?
But
I mean,
that's an attention getter, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, I think any kind of way you can communicate, and like you just said, you know it. So if you know it, don't you think our teammates know it?
Yeah.
It's an important thing. Communication's key, and I think that's what the best teams do. They communicate very well, and they're able to go and take the message that was given in the locker room, go out and communicate it to one another while they're playing and execute it.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll hear like players say, like, oh, I don't really like hear the stadium, like I don't really hear the fans. Can you actually tune it out?
You know what's crazy? You can. It's wild. Like your first couple times of doing it, it's almost, oh my gosh, what's going on? But as you go and as you play, your mind, it's crazy what it can. You can literally tune out every single thing around you that's going on, and you can. The quarterback in the huddle is talking like you and I are talking, and it's just it's an ability that I think comes with time and it comes with experience. But yeah, you can block it out.
Turns into like white noise or something.
It's just you just don't hear anything. Yes, it's white noise. That's all it is just noise. And again, I think the laser-focused people, I think the people who can overcome that, those are the teams that are successful. I mean, and not only that, then go apply that on the court. The team that can do that is going to win.
Do you think this team has enough composure to be able to do that at this point?
Absolutely. I think, again, with Z being there, I think you had Akpora, who's played a lot of basketball. Chaz has played a lot of basketball, not at this level. Igor, I mean, all these guys have played a lot of ball. Jordan Gainey's played ball. So last year's team, I think, being able to have all these guys back minus DK, that was a big stage. I mean, to go to the Sweet 16 and go to the Elite 8, I mean, and literally to be right there on the cusp of it. And the majority of that team is back, and you've added a couple guys. So this will just be another opportunity to kind of put another little stone into the bag when it comes March.
Yeah. If we get back to our whiteboard and what you have written on there originally about not being able to get points, for Tennessee to prevent this from being ugly, what's the margin in the paint that they have to win?
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, I think
On the
it has to.
whiteboard, I want to score.
Oh, on the
I want a
whiteboard.
margin. Is it like 20 to 12? Like what do you think the ideal sweet spot would be? Plus 8. Okay.
Yeah, I think we have to be able to get in there and score points. When we're able to do that, our team plays so much better. Everything flows so much better. And again, we got to be able to stop them in the paint. Felix has done a very good job of blocking shots. Kate Phillips has come in and done a very good job of being kind of a big presence in there. But they're going to try to get the ball in the paint as well. I mean, I think when you're not scoring 80, 90, 100 points a game, you got to find a way to get easy points, and that's going to the goal and trying to get the ball in the paint.
A lot of the easy points that they get in the paint are those lobs to Felix. And if I'm kind of just looking at his stats too, like when they're at Missouri or when they're taking on Missouri, he had 12 points. That was a nice win. When it's against Oklahoma, he had 8. That was a nice win. The biggest difference, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but in the first meeting against Kentucky, he only had 4. And the second meeting, they had 8.
There you go.
So I guess if you up it by like 100%, you know,
then it's there.
times by 2, then yeah, I mean that's a pretty good way. Numbers can tell you whatever you want them to. But then being able to, and I think it goes to your plus 8. Like if you can get 8 or more points in the paint alone, I think this is a game that Tennessee could win by 2 or 3.
And it's going to be a close game in my opinion. I mean, the only way I think it gets out of control is if one team truly is not making shots at all. Then I think it could get ugly. But I mean, we're both averaging like 74 points a game. So it's and
this
if
will
you
be
look
like a
at
60 ball for sure.
If you look at 100%. If you look at field goal percentage, I think they're 42 so everything is literally kind of what and what. It's going to come down to execution. It's going to come down to being able to make shots in crunch time.
What do you think the final score will be on the scoreboard?
Here we go.
This is where we'll really learn if he knows ball or not.
We're going to go.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's all right.
Or if it'll come egg, Harper Volkswagen. Okay, wow. So you think Tennessee will win this game, 71-67.
Listen, I am never going to pick against the Vols. I don't care what's going on.
A true VFL.
A true VFL. we can be playing the Philadelphia Eagles in some kind of way. I'm gonna find a way. Nico's gonna do it all.
Ball all the way. Love that. As Tennessee goes on the road, what do you think right now is the best car to take us on the road?
Oh man, so right now we have the Atlas. So the Atlas is made in Chattanooga. It's a very good car. There's 2 different versions. There's a 7-seater version and there's a 5-seater version. So depending on size, need, and what you need, it'll do everything you need. And again, it's made in Tennessee. So we like to promote that. We like to talk about that because I think it's important to have that big plant down there and be able to supply us with cars. And the crazy thing is, Paige, you would think, this is funny, you would think with the plant being in Chattanooga, like we'd be like the first people to get cars. We see like trucks all the time, like driving by us. And it's just like, we say made in Tennessee and y'all can't give us the cars first.
Yeah, come on.
But no, so the VW Atlas is an awesome car. We got plenty of them in stock, so come check them out if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Great products here. Me and my sister's in the process of getting a car from here right now too. So definitely love everything that you guys are doing, and I love that you picked Tennessee to win. So I think that's a good place to end today. Yeah, hopefully on Saturday we have a post-game report, and it's maybe a 71-67 win, maybe even a larger margin.
If it's a score, you're buying me lunch. If it ends this, you're buying me lunch.
I mean, I think that's a fair bet.
Right,
I think that's a fair bet. We'll be back later this week to talk more Tennessee and Lady Vols basketball. Until then, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you have questions and you've made it to the end of the show, definitely leave the questions in the comments and we'll get them answered next week. We'll talk to you guys then.